Hey everyone! In this episode, I'm joined by my wonderful friend Rajni. She's a longtime educator in the San Francisco public school system, originally from New York City, and is also a life coach for other teachers. In part one, we talk about her journey of burnout, boundaries, and learning to take care of herself in a system that demands way too much. She shares how her upbringing shaped her, how she found her way into teaching, and what it took to finally say no, not just to others, but to her own patterns of people-pleasing. In part two, things get more personal. Rajni opens up about the loss of her father, her experience with emotional healing, weight loss, and what it's been like to reconnect with her body and her softer side. It's a conversation about self-trust, pleasure, and letting yourself become someone new. Enjoy. Hey you guys, I'm Kristina. This is Say More, a podcast about the kinds of conversations that invite us to go deeper. I'm a therapist, and this is a space for honest reflection on what shapes us, from early unconscious patterns to how we actually change and grow. Some episodes explore theory and ideas, and others are real, reflective talks with therapists and other people I love talking to. People who are on the path or simply curious about growth and healing. At times, I follow what's alive, letting topics emerge from my own life, my guests, from sessions, or from whatever's been coming up lately. If you're drawn to depth without needing perfection and want a space that holds both pain and possibility, you're in the right place. I'm really glad you're here. Let's say more. So, what in your experience gets in the way of being more in touch with your feminine?
Yeah. So I think for most of my life, it has been safety and acceptance, right? And I think part of it is cultural from like my family background, but it's also like societal cultural, right? Where, I think women have become way more independent and financially independent and secure and stepping into their more masculine energy more often.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I grew up with as well, like having to be independent, having to, I mean, my mom taught us when we were young, me and my sister, don't ever depend on a man financially. Do not ever, you have to make sure that you can make everything on your own. And I grew up with that philosophy and I agree with it. But the downside of it is like living too much in the masculine, right? Being able to provide for myself is incredibly important and it's necessary for me to have that independence. But that doesn't, I think what it resulted in for so many years was just like shutting down this feminine and also feeling like it wasn't safe to be feminine for probably more than just that reason of like financial security, but also just like physical safety, right? Where I'm like, oh, if I like look too much like a girly girl, then I might be unsafe if I'm like out somewhere, right? Or if um, and it's deeper than that too. Like, I think in my family of origin, the masculine was more approved of or accepted because it's like somehow it was interpreted when I was a kid as like that's what success means, right? Like it was like career, school, finance, like that's what success looks like. But now being 40 and having found success that doesn't necessarily depend on those things, even though I feel successful in those ways, I can also see that there is so much more to success than just that.
Mm.
Like I see success for me as being emotionally secure as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something that was ever even introduced to me growing up and like in my family of origin and like in my culture. It's like most, Indian American families and like even if they're like, people living in India families, there's just like a lot of the culture is like sweeping things under the rug and like not talking about feelings and that like that kind of thing was like not as important as the like more like real problems that you might have. Right. And I think that me growing into my own in the last few years on my own healing journey from a lot of my childhood, a lot of my past has taught me how to like be secure in my emotions. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I can be playful and feminine and still also have that strength about me without it feeling frivolous
Mm.
or unsafe. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning, like this is a transition period for me where I'm learning how to embrace that feminine energy and balance it, right? Like balance it with strength.
Yeah, I love that. I was relating to my own kind of experience of growing up, and I do feel like the feminine qualities of like either emotional intelligence or being more soft, it just wasn't normalized. And I was conditioned to judge the feminine and the vulnerability. And I think that might be internalized sexism, developing. I think I developed a really harsh critic of myself, my emotions. I think it developed judgment of like women, honestly, like in their feelings. And that's not easy to say or look at.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I have a sister, she's a year and a half older than me, and she's always been incredibly like career driven and, very high achieving. And she is definitely more and has always been more in her masculine energy. And I just felt like that was really praised.
Hmm.
And me being like the younger one, the one that was like, a little bit softer and emotional, like that wasn't seen as valuable.
Hmm.
So I also, for most of my life, similarly to what you described, found myself like really judging, like, oh, if a girl is like focused on how she looks or how she wants to look, or like making her body look the way that she wants it to, or whatever it is, or, people in female bodies, I will say to be, gender neutral. But I also find myself or found myself, being really critical of women like that before, as well, because I think that's just like conditioning, in
Yeah.
addition to like societal conditioning, but also family conditioning in my case as well.
Yeah. We were talking about like recovery of boundaries, and then it makes me think about like the recovery of, you know, our own vulnerability or feeling safe enough that we are secure in ourselves and can really have a voice and be honest and speak with, I guess, integrity. I don't know exactly where I'm going with that, but just safety is involved with being soft, I think, as well.
Hmm. And for me, it- what that makes me think of is that I can allow myself to be vulnerable and also hold a boundary at the same time. Oh,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
I found myself
How does that
doing.
look for you?
Huh?
Yeah, sorry. How does that look for you?
Oh, I am learning. This is like very early stages of me learning that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had some practice with it last week, as
Mm.
well. And establishing and expressing my needs and boundaries with someone in a way that felt really new and would not like I would not have been able or had the tools or the experience, strength,
Hmm.
core strength to do that in the past. And it's interesting that there, I can say that somewhat was a result of my, really stepping into this like feminine strength versus like feminine weakness of like people pleasing, for example, right? Or
Hmm.
approval seeking, where, once I was able to like figure out what the boundary was and what it was
Hmm.
that I needed, I was able to like trust that, like, yeah, this is how I feel, and
Hmm.
it's okay to just say it, or say my needs.
Your flirty 40s are coming to fruition
They
with some
are,
fierce boundaries and softness.
yeah, and like it never occurred to me that those two things could exist together.
Can you say more about that?
Well, yeah. So in the beginning, when I first started learning what boundaries are, because
Hmm.
I don't think I heard that word until I
Yeah.
was in my mid 30s. I was like, well, I don't even know what that word is, first of all.
Yeah.
when I learned the word and then I learned what it means, like how to do that and what that looks like for me and like why boundaries are important, it didn't occur to me that it wouldn't be like a betrayal to myself to flex them, right?
Uh-huh.
And boundaries to me had this meaning of like being very strict or rigid or like, nope, I never do this thing. And in
Mm-hmm.
some cases, yes, but in some cases, it's we can re-examine our own boundaries and kind of decide when it might be beneficial in maybe some other way to flex
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and allow vulnerability for the purpose of growth. And I think that's what it was last week for me. Is like I don't want to keep repeating this pattern that I was going through, and I just wanted to really do things differently, and I had to sit and figure out what that meant and what that actually looked like in practice, like doing things differently.
Yeah. Touching into the vulnerability and then expressing that or expressing it in the form of a need and like with clarity.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very adult, mature thing to do, and it is takes years, I think, because we don't grow up, at least our generation, maybe the Gen Zs and the alphas will, we'll impart some wisdom to them about boundaries and self-care and knowing what your needs are, but that's a big thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good job.
My
How
therapist was
was it? How
my
was it to do
therapist, I have to tell you, my therapist was so proud of me.
it? Mhm.
And I knew it when I was like going through it and I did it. I was like, oh my God, she's gonna be so proud. And then I'm like, I'm so proud of myself. Like it just lifted the like so many fears that also I had to work through as well in order to get to that place.
Mhm.
But it opened, uh, yeah, it just opened up a different part of me that allows me to go further into this, like embracing my femininity in the form of like a balance of vulnerability, strength, boundaries, and playfulness too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I can play and have fun,
Mhm.
and I can also like take care of myself too, and not just like play and have fun to the point where it's unsafe, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It feels like it's like the word self-trust is coming to my mind, and also like the integration of learning how to take care of yourself in the world out of kind of survival and what we learned. And there's positives to that. And then there's also like our emotions and our emotional intelligence, like almost catching up to our like badassness in the world. And how powerful it is, I think, for women in particular, everyone maybe, to really have that integration and that piece where your mind and your emotions are kind of in sync and you're working, you know how to work with that and hold space for both of those to make wiser choices. And like you said, this surprising outcome maybe of like being able to play more and around self-trust. And I love that idea.
It's really interesting. And I think along with all the emotional work that I've done over the past few years comes the physical health piece too, because
Hmm.
having my body look more like I want it to and in a very healthy way,
Hmm.
and also like seeing myself in a positive way in terms of like my physical self more so than I have in a number of years, because I mean I've been always up and down with my weight in my life, and you know it's sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so having that, having like done the work physically also contributed to this confidence in addition to the
Hmm.
emotional work. And they just sort of kind of dovetailed in this beautiful way where
Hmm.
that insecurity that I used to have wasn't as loud.
Hmm.
And it was just sort of this feeling like, okay, I'm going to be okay
Hmm.
because I'm a badass bitch. Like I'm going to be okay. you know?
You're feeling more confident, like in your body, and that goes hand in hand with the emotional hard work that you've done.
Mhm.
Yeah, that definitely speaks to, yeah. It's almost like I kind of forget about physical health when it relates to mental health. I mean, I think about physical health for myself and for my clients, like it's not about looking good. It's about the neurochemicals that produce endorphins and help your mental health purely for your mental health. And then I think there is something which is reaching a point where you like how you look in the mirror. And that gives you a different level of confidence that, again, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it can be missing, I think. And I tend to even forget about it or even downplay, like, oh, yeah, that's just like kind of superficial. But personally, there's a lot of insecurity. I mean, body image stuff has been challenging my whole life. I don't know if and when that will ever change, to develop a more gentle and compassionate relationship to my body and not liking, I mean, that goes way back to lots of conditioning. But yeah, I wonder if you could say more about just how your self-esteem correlated in your journey related to how you looked or felt in your body.
Yeah, I will say that. I mean, I remember that question. And
Okay.
as you were talking, I started thinking about my journey of like really going from the inside out, right?
Mm,
So, like working on the deep emotional wounds and all of the stuff that was so deep inside that manifested in all these different ways, including, you know,
mhm,
gaining weight and losing weight, unhealthy ways, gaining again, like all of this, like my relationship to my body issues, right? So it was almost like I was taking care of all the inside stuff first, and like working my way slowly to like, okay, now I'm going to deal with this manifestation of this same core issue.
mm,
Now I'm going to deal with this one. Now I'm going to deal with this one.
yeah.
And it just happened to be, but it's never happened to be, right? I guess, but it felt like it happened to be um, on a whim that I decided in, was it May of last year? Like I had lost a little bit of weight before that, but in May of last year, I was like, you know what? I'm really gonna try to work on this, right? Like I really want to lose weight. I don't feel healthy in my
Mhm,
body. Like I'm always tired and dragging, and I shouldn't feel this way because I am not, I'm 40, like, or at that time I was barely 40.
yeah.
And so it's just sort of like a quick decision
Mm,
kind of spontaneously.
mhm,
And here we are, like over a year later, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, I just did all that. And that's where the confidence comes from because I'm like, I fucking did that. I put in the
mhm,
time. I actually worked on my relationship to food.
mhm,
And that was like the deeper issue because I was, throughout my life, and some of it comes from from again, like family of origin stuff where like everything was like just centered on food,
mm,
and like any celebration or any event or whatever it was like food was the central like theme of it,
mhm,
which isn't altogether a bad thing, but I just didn't, like, I just never had a under or even awareness of
yeah.
a relationship with food. Like I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize for so long that I was, especially in the past, I want to say maybe like 2018, 2019,
Mhm,
after I moved out west. It started before that, but anyway, in the recent the recent years, I started to realize that like how much I was self medicating with food, right, or
mhm,
like or numbing essentially with food. So once
yeah.
all that emotional stuff, the much deeper emotional wounds
Mhm,
and the trauma I had started to resolve them and like cycle through multiple cycles of resolving things as they came up. Um,
mhm,
then there was like, what was there left to numb?
yeah.
It's like, why am I eating so much? Like, why am I like so obsessed and just like eating? I'm not really enjoying it. It's just like stuffing, it's like
Mhm,
how I used to stuff my feelings because I had no awareness of like how to process them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it got me to the point where I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what am I really doing?
Wow.
And that that was a big shift for me in
Mm-hmm.
really like realizing what I was how I was using food.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was able to work through that
Mm-hmm.
over the past, year, almost 2 years now, that it, yeah, I guess it gave me the confidence too. It contributed to the emotional growth as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. Sounds like you had a real like moment of awakening. Like something it just hit you. Like,
It was a
oh, why am I
bottom
doing
too. It was a bottom too, right?
this?
So
Bottom?
like my father passed in November of 2023, and his health issues for the majority of his life were related to food and alcohol,
Mm,
and he was diabetic, and because he was diabetic was on all kinds of medication and everything, and because of his alcohol intake and his just he's like poor health in terms of like his weight, I guess, and just internal as well, and not just weight but in general,
mm-hmm.
contributed to him essentially having liver failure
Wow.
because he got liver cancer. Well, prior to that, he had bladder cancer. Then he got liver cancer, and then
Mm,
that basically killed all of his organs after he went
mm,
through chemo. And watching him die in the hospital over a course of a couple of days, I think coming out of that, and of course, grieving the loss, and even though our relationship was really complicated and strained, there is still a lot of grief there. But
right.
essentially, like seeing that and then seeing myself and being like, what am I doing to myself? Because
Mm-hmm.
that could very easily happen to me. I got to the point where I was the heaviest I'd ever been right around that time. And from the end of November to May, whatever that is, 6 months, I was like, I had made the decision by May, like, I gotta turn this shit around.
Yeah.
So it was a bottom an awakening at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Whew, I kind of got the chills.
Okay.
That's powerful, Rajni. Yeah. It was making me think also about like the weight of just your father and kind of that relationship and that being gone and what happened for you just on all these different levels after he passed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like you've come out a lot, you're brighter, you've moved through the emotional and the physical
Yeah.
layers at
And like
this point.
it's not easy. I'm not gonna
No.
sit here and be like, yeah, it was great. I grieved, I lost
No.
40 pounds, it's awesome. No, like, this is definitely
Yeah.
not it.
Yeah.
It was hard, but I had that going back to self-trust, right? Like throughout the process of like learning about my relationship with food and certain behaviors around food, there was this really deep underlying feeling like, okay, like I've got this, I'm gonna do this, like keep going, without, and I think too, the way that I've done it is like, I don't restrict anything. There's something I'm like, oh, I can't eat that, period. I'm like, okay, well, maybe not today, right? Or maybe I'll just have like a little bit because it's like not really my plan for the day.
Yeah.
But I think that has helped as well, like having the emotional foundation and the self-trust in order
Hmm.
to get myself through the days where it was a little bit harder than it would have been on a normal
Hmm.
day.
What made it hard? Was it still kind of the impulse to self-medicate or yeah, used to
Impulse and also like, cravings.
food tastes good?
Food tastes good. Like I love food.
I love food. I love food. It's hard to not, I have to tell you.
Very
I'm
good.
still on that journey and the body just, I guess trauma and the emotions really express themselves through the body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that yeah. I feel like we could talk about that for a long time, and I
I
could go
know.
more personally into my own body issues, but I liked what you said, like getting stuffed, the feelings getting stuffed because you didn't know how to process them. And I think that's a lot of what my experience is as well of, emotional eating or overeating or pleasure, like it is like if you're not happy, food is one of the last things that you can do to kind of like experience some kind of joy. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that, it's all connected. So I appreciate you sharing about all of that. Yeah.
I think, when you mentioned pleasure, I was like, oh, that was such a big part of my journey as well in this transition because like I realized like I can't just get all of my pleasure from food.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I started to be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like I want to like play around a little. I want to take risks. I want to like be social in different ways than I have been before, or like try new things and see what I like and really be in my body about what feels pleasurable.
Mm.
Um, and that exploration has helped as well to like ease the
Yeah.
food.
Mm. I feel excited when I hear that
Now I feel
about
like
like
sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I had like lipstick on my chin, but I don't. Sorry. What
I
was
can't
it?
tell. The screen is a little blurry, but the video should be better. You're gorgeous.
You were saying you feel excited?
Oh, I just feel excited for you hearing all of that. And like, I think it's such a good example of like, the path of healing and what it can look like and what it can open up into a more integrated version that experiences new things, is allowed to feel safe enough to allow in new sources of pleasure and allow your body to experience trusting yourself to know what's good for you, what's not good for you, and have that be an experimentation rather than just like a strict no, because I'm still in my shit. I've got trauma. I can't, it's the body's overwhelmed. Like that's what happens with everybody, myself included. And so I just think it's really beautiful the way that you're talking about it. And I feel excited about where you're at.
No.
Yeah. What are you excited about
Am I
for
excited
yourself?
about? Okay. Well, I speaking of like trying new things and taking risks, I am signed up for a lot of just like meeting random people events this summer because I
Okay, wait. Do we need to do screening? No, I'm just kidding.
not in that way.
Okay.
Trying new things like meeting new people type of things so that I don't know how to say it. No, I don't know if I want to go there. Wait, what are you excited about right now? That was your question. Let me start over.
You're good.
Um, it is summer break, and I tend to be more socially active in the summertime. So I have filled my calendar with all kinds of stuff. And 2 weeks ago, took my first salsa class, beginning salsa I've never taken before. So another new thing that is pleasurable, I think. And it's a little bit intimidating, but it is still pleasurable.
Okay.
And I know that it will become more and more the more I learn and
Uh-huh.
actually enjoy it. Um, I'm excited to travel a little bit this summer and like go to New York for a few days. I'm
Uh-huh.
also excited to to revamp my Instagram. So
Oh.
my Instagram, my one for coaching, is
Uh-huh.
has been like a lot of content and like strategies and tools for teachers to use around emotional regulation or like boundary setting, work life balance stuff. And a lot of it is just like content. I don't know how to describe. It's not always like photo video content, but a lot of it's like, what do you call those things? Those like written content? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I haven't really been that active in posting content related to um, teacher coaching
Uh-huh.
for the past year. And I mean, part of it was I took a really long break after my father's passing. I'm like, you don't have creative energy when you're grieving, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just never got back on because I was just doing things in person, like in real life. I had some workshops at my school, but then also had workshops for the Exploratorium, for USF, and like for brand new teachers that are earning their credentials. So I really started to grow organically in real life, which felt
Mm-hmm.
more productive, and it actually felt like I was reaching more people and genuinely helping more people.
Mm-hmm.
So I have just sort of like had my Instagram sitting there, and that used to be like a creative outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this new flirty 40s phase, right, of my life, whatever that it turns
Yeah.
out being, I want to revamp. I want to revamp my
Yeah.
Instagram and my approach, which will be more so like of my personal experience, my personal story. So as I'm going through this journey, right? And like each phase of the journey looks different. So I might keep
Mm-hmm.
some of the content that I have there, but I'm also just going to be changing the way that I do things on there. And that feels like documenting my journey. And it also feels like helping others
Mm-hmm.
by being an example. And it also feels like validating that I am a bad bitch because not that I'm getting validation from others because social media is weird and like that's, how that works with it.
Right.
But like I can see myself on there. I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking awesome.
Like it resonates. The image that I'm putting out is reflecting how I feel inside, and that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm excited to do that project over the summer. I usually do some kind of like teacher coaching project over the summer to set up what I want to do with with my workshops for the, upcoming year. So that'll be my project in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, personally just keep finding new things that bring me pleasure.
Yeah. I want to ask, like, what is it like to feel pleasure, and like, what was that shift like for you to start to feel that in your body?
Really scary at first, of course, because it's like, oh my God, what is this feeling?
Mhm.
And then it's like when you like it depends like where you're feeling it, right? But I feel like for me it's like heart center, a little bit and like solar plexus, right? Or is that like your third chakra, I believe, right? So yeah, a lot of it is right there for me.
Mm,
And I feel like so much of it lately has been having to do with being in my body and like moving
mhm.
my body in certain ways, like the salsa class, right? Or, you know, really focusing more this summer on like, hey, I have more time in the morning, so I'm going to extend my workouts, whatever they are that day, a little bit longer than I would normally during the school year.
Yeah.
So, and it does. I mean, of course, there's the chemical aspect of it too, where you're increasing endorphins, right, and the positive stress hormones. But there's also just like the feeling of accomplishment as well, and just feeling like my body feels good. I'm not in pain. I'm not dragging. I'm not tired. So feeling different places in my body that just that feel good and learning through practice like what feels good and not so much feeling when, or how do I say that? And having less experiences of not feeling good in my body.
Yeah. Building those experiences up almost.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was having this like thought of like, oh, we're two like 40 in our 40s now. And like I think we're similar in that like we are these strong, independent women. And it's like almost like this journey from our heads to our bodies almost. Like, as cheesy as that sounds, like, that is a really hard journey because of what we have learned and what we've grown up with and all of the conditioning that has kept us in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're describing sounds like an image of health, like overall.
Yay.
Yay. And thank you for sharing all of that. I feel like, yeah, it's lovely to talk to you and it like this is why I love having these conversations because it like opens up new thoughts for me about, in this, for instance, my body and how I'm relating to it. And I just think it's information that like I can take with me to kind of contemplate what you're talking about. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for letting me share. And as usual, when I share, like, oh, I didn't realize that was going to come out, or oh, I didn't realize that was a thing that I was feeling. So I appreciate
Yeah.
being able to share and have those new
Mm-hmm.
realizations for myself too.
Was there anything specific that stood out?
While I had connected internally the journey between, or the connection between like my father's passing and then my focus on my physical health. I don't know if I ever like said it out loud
Mm-hmm.
to anyone besides my therapist.
Well,
There's not,
thank you for
and
sharing.
maybe that could help someone too, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, well, thank you for saying more and for being willing and taking a fabulous risk of sharing your story on this pod.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to say more.
Of, of course. All right. Well, I think we can end there. I hope you have a great rest of your day, Rajni.
Thanks, you
No.
too.
All right. Yeah, I'll just stop it and then we can it won't cut us off, but it'll stop recording. So I'll just say I'll do it again. A goodbye.
Was that not good? Was that not a good goodbye? What were you trying to say? Sorry.
No, I was just trying to close it and you're like, "Wait, is this it?
Is this the recording?
Wait, are you leaving? My abandonment has come up."
I know. Like, don't just leave like that.
Okay. Let me ask a different question.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you would love to share or feels like you need to share before we end here for today?
Um, Wait. I'm sorry.
Do you want to share anything else
No,
before we end?
no. I actually liked what I shared when you asked me before.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of like how to end these episodes. I just don't know how. It's just a
I
little
thought your
awkward.
ending was great.
We already ended? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was great when you were like, "Thank you for, coming," and I was like, thank you for letting me share."
Yeah.
And then you
We'll just
said
put it there.
something, and I was like, "Thanks for inviting me," and you're like, "Okay," and then like,
I wanted to make it cute. I wanted to be like, may you dance with all of your salsa and all of your new experiences into new experiences of pleasure. And we love you. I love you.
thank you.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to Say More, a podcast about the kinds of conversations that invite us to go deeper. A mentor once told me the goal of therapy is to say everything. That stayed with me because what heals us isn't just insight. It's the moment we say what once felt unsayable out loud to another person. So my invitation to you is this: stay curious, be brave, and say more. If you'd like to learn more about my work or get in touch, you can visit KristinaRadnoti.com. Thanks for listening.